Hey guys, welcome back to the final day of Nolan Week. We just saw Interstellar, better known as Gravity 2, starring Anne Hathaway and Jessica Chastain.
Wait, wasn't Matthew McConaughey in that?
No.
Oh.
I would like to introduce
We used to look up in the sky and wonder at our place in the stars. Now we just look down and worry about our place in the dirt.
Go for main engine start, T-minus 10.
We must confront the reality that nothing in our solar system can help us.
9.
I've got kids, Professor. How long would I be gone?
8.
I'm asking you to trust me.
7.
Murph. You have to talk to me, Murph.
6.
I need to fix this before I go.
You have no idea when you're coming back.
5. Main engine start.
Couldn't you have told her you were going to save the world?
No.
4.
When you become a parent,
3.
one thing becomes really clear.
2.
And that's that you want to make sure your children feel safe.
1.
I'm coming back.
When?
I love you forever.
Thanks for checking in with the Nerd Corner, guys. Now it's time to review Interstellar, the moment we've all been waiting for.
Yes, and you and I are so very tired.
Yes.
We went to the... Well, is it not the midnight premiere?
It was the 11:30 showing of the next day, so it was the next day premiere.
Yeah, exactly. And we just saw possibly the best movie of the year.
Definitely.
A Oscar contender, but it's also crazy because we had a busy 2 days. We went to go see Big Hero 6. You can check out that review next week. And we went to go see Christopher Nolan's epic space science fiction-y great movie Interstellar.
I'm going to start off this review by saying I think it's our generation's 2001: A Space Odyssey, but it's way better. Like, it was interesting. I'm not going to use the word fun because it wasn't really fun, but it was interesting. It was dramatic.
It was fun.
It was just. It's not a fun movie. It was fun to watch, but in itself, like, we had Guardians of the Galaxy, which is a fun space movie. This was a very serious tone to it, and the stakes were so high.
Right.
And Christopher Nolan and his, this is a Nolan brother film, and they took us on a wild journey through space and time. We had the Earth setting, a very physical, gritty Earth, a grim Earth, and then we had space, which was vast and exciting and crazy. Some of the planets they went to and the landscapes and things like that. And then we had the metaphysical journey, the part of the movie where it took on a larger life and went to the not quite supernatural, but truly the final frontier.
Right, it's like the precipice of life and death, the human consciousness, like how far it can go and stuff. And it's very, very thought provoking, very, like we said in the Inception and all the other ones, the very philosophical, very Nolan-esque.
Yes.
You can tell that he had 2001: Space Odyssey in mind when he made this movie, but you can tell that he's like, I'm not going to repeat that movie's mistakes. I think 2001: Space Odyssey is a very flawed film, and this movie has a little cracks. It cracks up a little bit. There are some parts where it doesn't hold up quite as well as other Nolan films. There are areas of it that are just iffy, but all in all, very solid film. Very early on is probably going to be an Oscar contender.
Definitely. I mean, if we're not hearing in the next few days about possible Oscar nominations for this, I don't know if it would get Best Acting. Maybe Anne Hathaway would get Best Actress. Let's talk about the performance of the actor. We had Matthew McConaughey, who was pretty much spearheading this film. A lot of film time was shown on Matthew McConaughey. And the problem with it is Matthew McConaughey is such a good actor. We've seen him in so many great roles, like in True Detectives and Dallas Buyers Club, that it's almost like we expect Matthew McConaughey to bring the best acting every single time. And he did a great performance. There's like a scene where he cries for a minute straight. And that was probably like his best acting in the movie. I think one of the things is the way his character was written didn't really give him a chance to show us his acting range. It was very almost limited.
I felt like Matthew McConaughey's character, I think he had enough like screen time to make us, be like, okay, he's a good actor, right? But the thing is, his character wasn't very complex. It was more, he was kind of like, he had a one-track mind. He said, I have a goal in mind, right? And he said, I want to get to this goal, and this is how I want to get there. And it seems to me like he was kind of a flatter character than Matthew's played in the past, but he did a phenomenal job with what he had to work with. And it's not, honestly, this is a movie, I always say this about movies. I said there's two types of movies that are good. I said there are character-driven stories, and then there are just good movies, right? And so the movies that are good, the character-driven stories, are like where the characters are better than the movie itself. There's been a lot of those recently, and then there are these movies where it's not about the characters. It's not about really.
It's about
it's about
the story,
their journey. It's about their journey, and it's not about like them personally. So you have like films. You have films like Maleficent, right? Absolutely terrible movie, like god-awful movie, but Angelina Jolie is great in that film, and that's what makes that movie good, is her as Maleficent, right? And then you have this movie where Matthew McConaughey, the lead actor, I mean, Anne Hathaway did a great job.
Definitely.
Casey Affleck was in it for 5 seconds.
He didn't really have much to work with.
Yeah, and then I felt Jessica Chastain was lacking. I felt like, out of all these performances, Anne Hathaway probably did the best, and Michael Caine, of course, killing it like he always does. But they didn't have a lot to work with. But it wasn't about them. It was just about this huge grand story. It's science fiction-esque in tone, but it's also, like you said, it's about the metaphysical type of story.
I really, really enjoyed this movie because it didn't stick to normal conventions of plot, or setting. And Christopher Nolan and his brother, they disregarded any, there was no limit. They didn't limit themselves in any way with this movie. They said, we can do whatever we want, and they truly did it. They made this future Earth that almost felt like it was the present. Everything was relatively present day. Nothing was really modernized. It was almost like they regressed, and that they were trying to show that. And then we go to space, and these ships are super futuristic.
Right, it shows
really
like
high tech.
It's like the whole quote where it's like, I don't know what weapons World War III will be fought with, but World War IV will be fought with sticks. Like that whole or whatever it says or whatever. It's like that whole thing. It's like something happened to Earth, and that's one of the problems we had with
They never explain that.
They never explain it. It's just kind of dust is coming everywhere and destroying crops and stuff, and Matthew McConaughey's a farmer, and he's got to save his daughter.
They did touch at one point how NASA, as an organization, I guess, refused to drop nuclear weapons on the world's population because, from what we can gather from the small elements that they give us, my understanding is the Earth was overpopulated. They wanted to reduce the population. There was some sort of fallout, and everybody is trying to repopulate the Earth. The population somehow dwindled and fell drastically, and they're talking about, how the Matthew McConaughey's dad is talking about how he remembers when there's 6 billion people And I think they're definitely saying that was present day. Like he's a member of our generation.
So the dad, Matthew McConaughey's dad, is played by the guy who plays James Franco's dad in Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and he says, yeah, everybody wanted the new thing and blah blah. So he's like everything. He said there were new things coming out every single day. It was like Christmas every day. So he's talking about our generation, like
how we're coming out with iPhones and Androids and just new things, you know.
And so anyway, he's talking about like, okay, so there is just something that happened. There's like the world's killing us, so we start fighting over food and we start fighting over water and stuff like that, and then we stop fighting over everything. There's no like fighting anymore. And so what happens is the story sets up, and Matthew McConaughey's a farmer, and he goes to the school, and they're like, we need farmers, we're just going to be caregivers. And he says, no, I don't want that for my kids, right? He wants what's best for his kids. It's his motivations in the movie. So he goes and he says, okay, so his daughter says, oh, there's a ghost, right? And she starts like, it starts like knocking over, and she starts like decoding it and stuff like that, and it's coordinates, and Matthew goes and he finds the remnants of NASA. And the government tasked NASA with finding a way off the planet because the planet itself is dying. And that sets up the whole, we are on this journey, on this Star Trek. To go and...
This interstellar journey.
Interstellar journey to go and find new civilizations, and that's where the movie succeeds.
Yeah. One thing, there were a few moments that I felt were kind of shoehorned in. A lot of the backstory, we didn't get a lot of exposition, which is okay. We still, like, we moved on from that point. We still enjoyed the movie without that. It would just been a nice little touch to get a little backstory and, you know, more about why Earth was the way it was and what actually caused it. But I think Christopher Nolan, he wasn't focused on the political aspect or trying to make a statement, like, about the environment. It wasn't that at all. He was trying to show this epic journey about human survival and the lengths that people will be willing to go to. But the part, it was when Matthew McConaughey stumbles upon NASA's remnants, and he kind of walks into their board meeting. Yeah. And nobody flinches. Like, they all know him.
Yeah, because he worked with them previously.
Which, it just kind of felt forced. Like, he knew Michael Caine's character.
It was like forced backstory. It was like, you know, it was kind of like, okay, you were in the... Like, they showed a flashback or whatever, and he's sleeping. And he wakes up and he's like, oh my God. And she's like, is it the wreck again, Dad? Like, you had a wreck and blah, blah. And he's like, yeah. At first I'm like, oh, he's an Air Force pilot. That's what I thought at first. But then it turns out he's like, Michael Caine's like, you worked with us once, Matthew McConaughey. You were in NASA. Blah, blah, blah. Be Batman. You know?
Yeah.
And that's essentially, you know, you're like, what? Like, that was kind of forced.
Yeah. And then we move on and we realize that it's still a great story, you know? Even with these flaws, the story holds up, and I don't even know if you consider the flaws or just things that we notice as moviegoers.
They're minor. They're minor annoyances. You can look past them, you know, because of the whole grand scale of this epic story. You know, it's like every movie's gonna have flaws. You know, even the most perfect movies have flaws, and when you see the flaws in Interstellar, the only reason that we kind of point them out is because it was so good the rest of the time.
Yeah, definitely.
That they were like, we could nitpick it, you know what I mean? Like, we were nitpicking it. We were like, they didn't give us enough backstory, even though, you know, they didn't have to.
Yeah.
Like, Christopher Nolan didn't go into this saying, I want a character-driven, huge, epic story about emotions. He said, I want two things. I want to show the metaphysical space, the science, to the science fiction and stuff like that. And he also said, I want to show how far humans are willing to go for survival. Yeah. It's essentially, if you break it down to its base, it is a story about human survival, human endurance, which is one of the name of the mission, human endurance, and like how far we are willing to go to A, preserve our own life, but B, to preserve the life of the ones that we love
Our legacy.
Our legacy on Earth, our evolutionary progression.
Yeah. Should we get into spoilers now?
Yeah. So
Okay.
if you haven't seen the movie, we highly recommend you go and see it right now. Go out right now and go see
Yeah.
this movie. Then come back. Now we're going to spoil it for you. Okay. So
I think we should dive headfirst into the ending. The entire time, the second they mentioned the black hole, I was telling Matt that I was like, I want to see Matthew McConaughey go into that. And he does. And that's when the movie transcends everything. Because there had been the theme about relativity, and they use actual, like, our understanding of black holes. There is a definite science to this. It's, you know, it's a very scientific movie, and they try to keep it as true as possible to that. I mean, I'm sure there's some scientists like, well, that can't happen.
yeah, some scientist is sitting in the audience. He was like, "This is bullshit."
But overall, okay, the general understanding that we have on physics of black holes and stuff like that, they try to use that about how it slows down everything and nothing can escape the event horizon. And so I thought that was really cool. They go to a planet and they find out that 1 hour on that planet is 7 years.
Oh my god, very Narnia.
And that plays a big role in what happens to the movie. He was such a underutilized character, but I don't even remember his name. But the black guy who stays on the ship got the butt end of everything.
Yeah, so they go on this planet, right? It's Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway. They go on this planet and they're trying to find, the whole mission is they're trying to find life, right? And they go on this planet, which there's 3 planets that have beacons. 2 of them are broadcasting, yeah, it's fine. The other one's not. So they go on the first planet that's closest to them, and it's a water planet, right? You've all seen it in the trailer, the huge waterfall coming down and stuff.
And this is where time is slowed down.
So they come back, and it was like they were on the planet for 2 hours or something. They were on it wasn't 2 hours. It was a couple
an
hours.
hour and 45 minutes or something like that.
No, it was a couple hours because they come back, right? And then the black guy's just like, "You've been gone for 23 years and 4 months."
We were just like,
"What?" Like, he had a beard and everything. She's like, "Why didn't you sleep?" He's like,
"I did."
He's like, "I did." He's like, I just couldn't stand it anymore. Blah,
And
blah.
he thought they were never coming back, so he's like, well, might as well do something while I'm stuck out in space.
Exactly. So he starts studying the black hole, and he's like,
He doesn't really get much. That's a sad thing.
He gets a little bit, but he doesn't
not
get much.
enough.
Yeah, so anyway, they go to the next planet, and then so the next planet they get to is an ice planet. It's Hoth, right? And then we get to see Matt Damon.
That was the most shocking moment of the movie, was seeing Matt Damon pop out of that sarcophagus.
Matt Damon pops out of the sarcophagus, and he was the one that spearheaded the entire project. And
Yeah. Dr. Man.
Spoilers,
Yeah.
Dr. Man goes crazy.
You called that. I didn't quite see it.
I turned to Josh and I go, I bet he's crazy.
Like, he's been on this planet by himself for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
You would
And
expect that.
He's just like, oh, I've got to do it. And like, he blows up their ship.
I honestly thought I honestly thought Matthew McConaughey was going to die and the movie was going to continue on without him. I was like, no. No
yeah,
way.
and then, so anyway, like, so they get off that. They ended up, Matt Damon dies, right? Because he blows up the air hatch. And they get back. They're like, okay, let's go to the other planet. And they're like, wait a sec, we gotta go. We don't have enough fuel. Let's use the black hole to like slingshot us to the planet. So what happens is Matthew McConaughey and my buddy, who we didn't even talk about, Tars,
the
robot. He's like a robot dude. They use Tars and Matthew McConaughey sacrifice themselves to get Anne Hathaway to the other planet.
Mm-hmm.
And so they go through the part of the black hole, and Matthew McConaughey's like, oh my god, blah, blah.
And his ship's getting ripped apart.
His ship gets ripped apart.
I think this is the end.
Yeah, he grabs hold of something, and it's a bookshelf. And he realizes that he's the ghost all along.
Yeah.
He was the one telling his daughter and him everything. So he sends it through Morse code to his daughter how to fix the algorithm of the black hole, to how to transcend time so that they can get, or how to transcend gravity so they can get off the Earth and to the habitable planet through the wormhole. And it's just, it was insane.
It was a great twist. It didn't, that part of the movie did not feel forced at all. It felt very organic. It felt natural. And it was like,
It was
it
almost...
tied up everything very nicely.
The only problem I had with it was almost predictable in nature. Like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh god, it's going to be Matthew McConaughey sending her messages and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of predicted.
But I mean, that's almost like 2020 hindsight bias, because did you think of that while you were on the bookshelf coming out?
That's what I thought as soon as I saw Stay Here. I said, oh god, it's Matthew sending messages back from the past.
Okay.
Total shot in the dark.
Yeah.
Right? But, I mean, it was still, like, it was shocking when it happened.
It was shocking, but I think the more shocking twist was the fact that there was no plan A, and that Michael Caine's character had been lying to them for years.
The plan, because they had two
that was
plans.
the most shocking thing.
They had two plans. They had plan A, which was to go and bring the people on Earth to the new planet, and plan B was to screw that and take these eggs and, like, raise these false kids essentially and build a new colony. Michael Caine lied to them. There was no plan A. He was just bullcrapping.
He was using that to just make sure
to make them go.
Because he knew Matthew McConaughey, like, nobody would want to go if there was no hope of bringing their loved one with. And that was Matthew McConaughey's whole drive. He didn't care about anybody on Earth, really, which I thought was kind of selfish. But he only wanted his kids, and he thought, the only way for my kids to survive is if I go and save the entire world. But you find out that's not even possible, and then Matthew McConaughey gets really, really upset.
Rightfully
understandably.
So. Rightfully
he's been lied to and sent into a mission and spent, 23 years on Earth. What would it be?
On that one planet.
Planet.
Exactly. And then so, like, the ending happens, and the ending is like he goes and meets his daughter when she's like 117 billion years old. She's like dying, and he's just like, oh, blah blah. And that's another problem I have with the movie. Matthew McConaughey loved his kid so much, but it turns out he loved his daughter more than his son. That's a fact.
Yeah. Definitely Murphy.
Yeah, he loved Murph more than he loved his son. And then, so she's dying, and she's like, go find Anne Hathaway. And Anne Hathaway's still the same age as Matthew McConaughey on a different planet. Relative, time's relative, people.
Yeah.
Learn this. And so he goes off, and the final mission's him and Tars going to try and find Anne Hathaway.
Tars was the closest thing we can come to comic relief. He was funny. He was so adorable.
Awesome. He was the Groot of that movie. He was the Baymax.
Well said.
He was the Baymax of that movie. He was fantastic in a movie year full of great sidekicks. Mm-hmm. Tars really stood out.
Whoever voiced Tars was really good too.
Right, and it was a fantastic movie through and through. So, do you want to go ahead and give the final verdict? Do you want to?
Final verdict for me would be go watch this movie and put it on your shelf of appreciation with other Christopher Nolan movies on it, because this lined up perfectly with his other work, and I think that it definitely showed that Christopher Nolan is here to stay for a long, long time. He's going to continue to be making good movies with great actors.
So my verdict is go see this movie right now. Just go out.
Well, it's still in theaters because the sound does play a huge difference.
Right. Go see it right now. And, it to me, final verdict though, it was a little above The Prestige. Like, it was like Inception's still my favorite, then this, then The Prestige. Like, that's how it ranks with the other Christopher Nolan films reviewed. But seriously, guys, it is a modern masterpiece. Go see this movie. And what do you guys think of Interstellar if you've seen it yet?
Let us know in the comments below.
Seriously, if you let us know, what do you think of Christopher Nolan as a director? Do you want to see him do more movies kind of like this? But thank you guys for tuning in to Christopher Nolan Week. We've had a blast. Don't forget to like and subscribe.